So hey guys, what's up? So welcome to my new channel. So starting from the first news, Saudi Arabia begins IPO of world's largest oil firm. Saudi Arabia finally kicked off what could be the world's biggest initial public offering, revealing potential tax cuts and dividends to lure investors. More than 3 years after Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman first raised the idea, and just 3 weeks after the plan to launch the share sale was abruptly delayed. Oil giant Saudi Aramco announced its intention on Sunday to list shares on the local stock exchange in Riyadh. The shares are likely to start trading in December. Aramco valuation will be determined during the investor roadshow and book building for the IPO. Chairman Rasil Al-Rahman said at news conference at Aramco's headquarters in the eastern city of the Durrand. "I think this is the right time for us," he said, adding that the percentage of international investors compared with the local ones is still to be determined. If we consider an international listing, it will be in the future. Aramco will release a prospectus for the IPO on November 9, Chief Executive Officer Ahmed Nasser said at the conference. Aramco, which pumps about 10% of the world's oil, generated the most profit of any corporation last year, with net income of the $111 billion more than Apple, including Google's parent Alphabet inclusive. And ExxonMobil Corp combined, it was targeting $2 trillion valuation, more than double than that of Apple, but the kingdom is now ready to accept a valuation of $1.6 trillion to $1.8 trillion to ensure that IPO is a success, according to people briefed on the matter. The sale is key to Prince Mohammed's Vision 2030 plan to overhaul the Saudi economy and end the kingdom's reliance on oil exports. The proceeds from the IPO will boost the firepower of the OPEC nation's sovereign wealth fund, which already has investments in funds managed by Blackstone Group LP and SoftBank Group Corp. Saudi Arabia's total oil share index fell as much as 2.4%, while Al Rajhi Bank and National Commercial Bank, grabbing a role in the deal, has been one of the most hotly contested mandates for global banks. More than 20 have been mandated, with the top roles going to be firms including Citigroup, including Goldman Sachs Group inclusive, and JP Morgan Chase & Co. But the path to today's announcement has not been smooth, but Prince Mohammed's insistence the company's worth $2 trillion has been met with the skepticism from international investors. The original plan to list Aramco in either New York or London has been dropped in favor of Riyadh, the only flotation for now. To do the deal, Aramco bankers will hate hefty contributions from the kingdom's wealthiest families, many of whom have been targeting in the 2070s declared corruption crackdown that shows scores of wealthy Saudis held in Riyadh rates and hotel. The company has been tiptoeing toward the greater disclosure required of publicly traded firms. It published annual financial statements for the first time in April ahead of the $12 billion bond sale. So move to the next news. United Kingdom PM Johnson to apologize for missing Brexit deadline. Britain Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Sunday said he would apologize to Conservatives for failing to take the UK out of the European Union by October 31st. The Johnson promise to have Britain leave the bloc by October 31st had been his central platform in the party leadership competition that brought him to power in July. He told Sky News that it was a matter of deep regret that he failed to do so. Asked if he was sorry about missing the deadline, Johnson said, "Yes, absolutely." Johnson planned to leave by October 31st, with or without a divorce deal was blocked by Parliament, which required him to seek a Brexit extension. The European Union has granted him a 3-month Brexit extension until January 31st. Johnson pushed hard for an early national election on December 12, in which he hopes to get a more Brexit-friendly Parliament. Meanwhile, his political rival Brexit party leader Nigel Farage told the BBC that he would not take a seat in the Parliament and he can serve the cause of Brexit better than by travelling throughout the Britain to support 600 Brexit party candidates. "I don't want to be in politics for the rest of my life," said. So move to the next news. US judge blocks Trump's health insurance rule for immigrants. A US federal judge on Saturday temporarily stayed for requiring immigrants to furnish proof they either have health insurance or can pay for it within a month of arriving. The order, which was to go into effect on Sunday, would have both impacted poor immigrants coming and joining relatives already in the US, something the President Donald Trump has routinely derived as chain migration. Judge Michael Salmon of the United States District Court in Portland, Oregon, has scheduled the next hearing in the case for November 22. Democrat and Obama White House immigration official had told Hindustan Times in October, when the order was issued, some 23,000 Indians are likely to be impacted by the rule, not necessarily denied but affected. An estimated 35,000 families sponsored by immigrants are accepted by the U.S. from India every year. Nearly by a third of them are already here to align for their green card, and the rest come from India. This order was issued under the same authority that President Trump used to ban visitors from the certain Muslim majority countries. Immigrants who enter this country should not further saddle our healthcare system and the subsequently American taxpayers with higher costs, Trump had said in a proclamation in October. A similar order impacting poor immigrants called the public charge rule issued in August was intended to give out the immigrants who could end up on welfare programs such as housing support and food stamps. President Trump has also signed off a plan reducing the annual intake of the refugees to 18,000 in 2022 from 30,000, which had been the lowest since the modern resettlement program creation in 1980. In the last full year of the Obama administration, the refugee ceiling was 85,000. The administration had announced its plan to cut the intake to 18,000 in September. So move to the next news. Canada Indian migrants. New survey says Canadians are far more in favor of tech talent immigration from Asian countries like India than from China, according to a new survey. While Canadian citizens are largely for enhanced immigration in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics stream, they prefer that the migrants arrive more from countries like India, South Korea, and the Philippines rather than China, found the 2019 National Opinion Poll on Canadian Views of Human Capital from Asia. The survey was conducted by the Vancouver-based Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada. When it comes to intake of the STEM talent, nearly three-fourths of the, or 73%, are for such immigration from India, 8 points higher than the comparative figure from China. The survey also found that 58% of Canadians believe that Canadians have become less receptive to international talent from China, the current tension between Canada and China. The two Canadians remains imprisoned in China when move out is widely seen as a retaliation for the rest of the senior executive from the Chinese communications that were in Vancouver last year. The survey stated that data suggests that China is the least powerful source of the talent across all types of workers. It also noted compared to the other Asian countries, India, South Korea, and the Philippines, support for workers from China falls by approximately 10 percentage points. This includes a similar fall when it comes to the Canadian government framing policies to tax such talent from these source regions. It pointed out that the statistics suggested that people are less inclined to support Chinese talent immigration overall. Nearly 10% of the population made its response when the policies are aimed at China, specifically has moved to the Asia. So move to the next news. China ready to work with ASEAN on South China Sea. Beijing said on Sunday it is ready to work with the South and East Asian nation on the code of conducting the flashpoint South China Sea, where it accused of building up military installation and building fuel kilometers. China claims most of the resource-rich waterway, a major global shipping route that has been long a source of tension in the region. For years, 10-member Association of the Southeast Asian has been locked in talk for code of conduct for the sea, where China is accused for deploying warships, armed outposts, and ramming fishing vessels. The agreement, set to be finished in 2021, will lay out conduct guidelines for the sea along with conflict resolution parameters. On Sunday, Chinese Premier Li Qiang said the first reading of the document a chance for all members to comment on the draft of a very important landmark. We stand ready to work with Asian countries, building on the existing foundation. The basis was strive for new projects on the guidelines, he said. He added that China wanted to maintain and uphold long-term peace and stability in the South China Sea. The Philippines, which has to operate with China in the sea, said on Sunday that the Beijing is committed to the code despite its broad claims to the waterway. It recognizes the fact that if it does agree to the code of conduct, then there will be a turmoil in the region. Presidential spokesman Salvador Panino told reporters in Bangkok on the silence of ASEAN. The Philippines in 2016 filed a case with the UN-backed tribunal, which ultimately rejected Beijing's decision in the sea. Tensions in the waterway have flared in the recent week between China and Vietnam. So move to the last news. Melting in the Arctic may trigger more abrupt climate change than predicted, according to a recent study. Researchers have predicted that the climate in various regions of the Arctic may change abruptly as the region undergoes large-scale melting of the permafrost frozen soil beneath the ground surface. The study, published in the journal Nature Climate Change, suggests that the severity of the wildfires could double from one year to the next and remain at the new higher rate for several regions in Canada as per the permafrost across the territories degrade. The researchers analyzed climate model simulations for the Arctic region and the noticed abrupt changes in the soil moisture as well as sudden increasing in intense rainfall with an increasingly increase in the lightning and the wildfires. We study climate engineering infrastructure, roads, ports, buildings, pipeline and mining infrastructure interactions in a changing climate. Arctic infrastructure is particularly impacted by permafrost degradation and associated soil moisture changes among other factors such as co-author Lakshmi Sridman from the McGill University. In the current study, the researchers built a final model of the permafrost degradation. We used climate model data spanning the 1970 to 2100 period to understand the probable changes in the Arctic climate and permafrost. What we came to know whether was a picture of alarming changes to climate, said study co-author Bernard Schaefer from McGill University. So if you like the channel, so kindly subscribe to it.